so Lenovo's Legion Pro 7 with AMD's new Ryzen 9955HX 3D processor, it's a mouthful, is not really a laptop. Not in the way that I think most people think of. First thing I did was fire up Spider-Man, maxed out every setting, turned on ray tracing, and started swinging through New York. And the frame counter in the corner kept climbing, went to like 150, 180, 200, and I'm sitting here thinking like, this has gotta be broken. Because laptop GPUs just don't do this. So I closed the game, checked the settings again, make sure I wasn't accidentally running it at like 720p or something dumb. Nope, everything maxed out. 230 frames per second. I ran it 3 more times just to make sure I wasn't losing my mind, but that's where things get interesting. And before I tell you a little bit more about the Lenovo Legion Pro 7, I do want to tell you something that I can do for you. Give you a chance to win $500. This is like my favorite thing to do, a way to give back for supporting me all these years. First, watch the video all the way through, give the video a thumbs up, leave me a comment down below, tell me the first game you would play with your new Legion Pro 7. First game you would fire up on it if you had one. Make sure there's a way to contact you either in the comments or on your YouTube page. Let it run for 10 days, open to anyone in the world. All the information will also be down below. So Lenovo and AMD sent this over, and I do want to thank them for sponsoring this video. And I want to be upfront about something right away, because it's going to kind of color everything else I'm about to tell you. This machine weighs about 6 pounds, and the power brick is 400 watts, which 400 is absurd. Most gaming laptops, like 180, maybe 230. This thing's power brick is the size of like an actual brick. You can use it for like home defense with fling it at somebody. And the second you unplug it from the wall, the performance doesn't just drop a little bit. It gives you a big pop-up that says frame rates are going from 240 FPS to 60. The battery, it has one, it exists, technically. But this laptop, don't care about battery life at all. Lenovo is built here, it's not a laptop. This is a desktop PC that happens to have screens attached. It can fold in half for transport. That's it. It took me a minute, but stop thinking laptop and start thinking desktop PC, because that's what this is competing against. And once you make that mental shift, I think things start to click into place. All right, so it's got AMD's brand new Ryzen 9955HX 3D processor, and that 3D part at the end actually matters. AMD basically stacked extra fast memory right on top of the processor. I kind of think of it like having your most used file sitting on your desk instead of in like a filing cabinet across the room. Games can grab what they need faster, which means better performance, especially in big open world games where the CPU is constantly loading new stuff. It's also a 16 core chip, which means it can handle a ton of tasks at once. This is the same class of processor that you put in a relatively high-end desktop gaming PC. 32 gigs of RAM, RTX 5080 from NVIDIA. That's a graphics card that is doing sort of the heavy visual work, and it's running at power levels, again, usually only seen a desktop tower. Terabyte of storage here. This is like full desktop PC spec sheet. And I want to just segue, talk about the cooling system, because it's going to come up in a big way like later in the video. Lenovo calls it Legion Cold Front, vapor with integrated hyperchamber, which I don't know, big marketing terms, it sounds like it'd be from the next Alien movie. What it actually means is 3 giant fans plus a flat metal chamber filled with liquid that evaporates and moves heat away from the processor super efficiently. And it's rated to handle, it's a theme here, more power than most gaming laptops even attempt. So remember the Spider-Man numbers from the beginning. I kind of want to walk through what happened when I started testing this thing because it was weird sailing at first. All right, so the first game that I wanted to fire up was Cyberpunk. I picked up my save in Night City. 172 FPS. Night City is a completely different game. All those neon signs reflecting off wet pavement, the ray tracing light bouncing between buildings, rain effects, dense crowds. The game is throwing everything at the GPU. The graphics card does not appear to be sweating at all. I ran around, the worst part of my job, for about 3 hours, testing different areas, different times of day, combat scenarios, driving fast through the city, and performance stayed locked. The RTX 5080 in this thing performs like a desktop tower with kind of unlimited power and cooling, but I did want to push it a little harder, so I loaded up Red Dead Redemption 2. I think things got even more interesting. So I maxed out every single thing I could. Ultra, like all the things, ray tracing on, particle effects cranked up. This, I thought was the most demanding that I could run this game at, which usually when I test these brings most systems like to their knees. 70 FPS, like smooth. And I know 70 sounds about 102 lower than 172, but you have to understand what like Red Dead 2 Ultra actually demands. This game is absurdly heavy. And 70 FPS on these settings mean you can play for hours without any stutter, no hitches, just consistent performance. I did get curious though, so I dropped all the settings to low to see what the ceiling was, and I got 112 FPS. This laptop has so much headroom that even Red Dead 2, I think it's still a pretty punishing game out there, really couldn't max it out. But the big game that I wanted to test, and this I gotta do for work, Battlefield 6. And this is the game I think a lot of people have been waiting for. It is an absolute beast. So at overkill settings, so that's like max everything, I got 57 FPS, which honestly for what Battlefield 6 is throwing at the GPU is pretty good. 57 FPS in a competitive multiplayer shooter is not ideal. So I dropped it to high settings, turned on the FPS booster, and then I'm sitting at 101 FPS on average. That was very playable. That's super smooth. Thing about Battlefield though, I think this is less about the laptop, more about the screen size. It's always been about that, I think, like a cinematic, immersive experience. The chaos of 64 players, explosions everywhere, scale of the maps are incredible. And playing that on a 16-inch screen, even a really good OLED, doesn't hit the same way as a massive monitor or a TV. The laptop can run it, no problem, but this is a game that you want to plug into an external display to experience that scale. The game looks absolutely incredible at max settings, but at full screen resolution, you are losing frames. In a competitive shooter, I think that matters, so just bear that in mind. And then Spider-Man, this is where I genuinely thought something was wrong with the frame counter. Originally built for PS4, so it's optimized for older console hardware. Yet on this laptop, maxed graphics, ray tracing on, swinging through Manhattan full speed, 230 FPS per second. I've tested this game on a lot of hardware. It's like my benchmark, and I've never, ever seen numbers like this. Every movement registers quickly, quick turns, combat, zipping between buildings, everything flows absurdly smooth. So AMD has this tech, it's FSR3. It basically uses computer AI to generate extra frames between the real frames to make everything seem smoother. So in all fairness, not all 230 of those frames are like real in traditional sense. And the end result feels and looks absolutely incredible. Even accounting for that sort of assist, these numbers are wild. This laptop outperforms the console the game was designed for by a massive margin. I think that's why these numbers actually matter to me. I don't have a dedicated gaming setup in my house. I don't have a spare room with a desk and a tower PC and dual monitors. Almost all of my work happens at the end of our dining room table. Now, I can't have a huge tower and monitor taking up permanent real estate because I literally don't have anywhere to put it. My family needs that table. So for years, I've been stuck with mostly handheld gaming. And a big shout out to the Legion Go with SteamOS, which is absolutely fantastic for what it is. But I'm missing out on desktop level gaming, like the big AAA games, max settings, high refresh rate, the competitive gaming that I used to love to do, that full like PC gaming experience. And there have been powerful gaming laptops before, but this is the first one that generally feels like a proper desktop PC that just happens to have a screen attached. And that alone changes everything for someone in my situation. I can sort of unplug this, clear off the table for dinner, plug it back in an hour later, and I'm right back to 200 plus FPS in Spider-Man. It's changed not only how I game, but I think more importantly, like what I can game. Games that I couldn't run properly before are now maxed out. These gaming experiences I've been missing are suddenly available because I can finally have desktop power without needing desktop space. So I do have to talk about the fans because I've been pretty positive performance-wise this whole time, but it does come at a cost. When you are pushing this much power through a laptop, remember 275 watts of system power with a 400 watt power brick feeding it, that heat's gotta go somewhere. So in quiet mode, the fans are manageable. You can hear them, but they're not like obnoxious. When you decide to switch to performance mode and start gaming, your roommates, your parents, your kids, your spouse are absolutely going to know about it. These fans get loud. But here's the trade-off And where this sort of desktop PC comparison matters, the laptop does stay cool. I gamed for hours at a time, multiple sessions, and the performance never dropped. The chip never got so hot that it had to slow to protect itself. Frame rate stayed super consistent. The keyboard deck did not turn into like a hot plate. If you've played a lot of gaming laptops, you know you can fry an egg on these decks. The fans are loud because they're cooling a desktop level chip, pushing desktop level power. And this is what it takes, the theme here, to get desktop performance, something that technically qualifies as portable. And all those frames that I've been talking about, they only matter if the screen can actually like show them, right? This is where the 16-inch OLED display comes in. OLED, you probably know it, each pixel makes its own light instead of having a backlight behind everything. So for example, when something's supposed to be black, the pixel just turns off completely. So true black, you don't get that kind of grayish dark you get on LCD screens. The colors here are vibrant, contrast is incredible, and the screen refresh is 240 times per second, which is awesome. Response time is less than 0.1 milliseconds, so basically instant. There's zero lag between what's happening in the game and what you see on the screen. And if you do try to touch that screen, you're just gonna make it dirty because it's not a touch screen at all. I still like touchscreens, but for a gaming computer, it doesn't matter too much. What does matter is that the OLED in this panel is the kind of display that you pair with a high-end desktop GPU. Games look stunning on this thing. The OLED makes dark scenes in games look incredibly playable, actually black again instead of that gray. And the response time means zero motion blur when you're whipping around fast in the shooter, which is a huge benefit to this thing. Lenovo makes really good keyboards. This is generally no exception with a few caveats. 1.6 millimeters of travel per key. You've got RGB if you want that light show aesthetic. It feels really good to type on though. My one complaint is the number pad on the right side makes the keys feel way too cramped over there. I kept hitting the wrong key for the first day or so, which in competitive games is not ideal. I'm still a proponent of not having number pads on laptops. Lenovo likes to have them, so just kind of know that here. Give yourself a day to play with it and your brain will recalibrate though. And just like building a desktop PC, you've got all the connectivity, the IO that you would need. You've got USB-C with power delivery, a couple of USB-A ports, HDMI 2.1 for the external monitor, which you will need if you want to play Battlefield well. Ethernet for when Wi-Fi is not cutting it. Audio jack 2. Wi-Fi 7 is also built in. So everything you need to connect to multiple monitors, a full keyboard, mouse setup, external drives, whatever your gaming setup requires, the port selection is what you'd expect from a desktop replacement, not sort of a compromised laptop. Something that surprised me, and I probably shouldn't have, I should have assumed it was gonna happen, was this how this handled sort of workstation tasks just as well as gaming. So we used DaVinci Resolve for video editing, which leans really heavily on graphics card and export times. These are insanely fast. That 16-core AMD processor combined with the RTX 5080 like ripped through 4K footage, the same way it tears through games. Exports that would take 20-ish minutes on our old setup finished in like 6 or 7. And that matters, because again, I work from home, editing video at the same table where I game. And having one machine that can handle both without compromise is really, really nice. Obviously, this is built for gaming, sort of, and that desktop level power does make it fantastic for creative work. But a side benefit that I didn't expect was actually crypto mining. If you are into crypto mining with like Unminable or something, the RTX 5080 combined that 16-core processor can mine crypto like crazy. Here's an example of 5080 hash rates if you're interested. I'm not saying you should buy a $2,400 laptop to mine crypto. If you already have this machine for gaming, content creation, and you want to mine when you're not using it, the hash rates are legitimately impressive. Can't make a video on a computer without talking about AI. AI performance optimizations are built in here too. Lenovo's AI Engine Plus, and it sounds creepy, but it's not, watches what you're doing and automatically adjusts sort of things to keep them running smoothly. Legion Space software gives you control over fan curve, which is really nice. Overclocking too, if you want to push a chip even harder. RGB lighting, kind of all of that. I mostly use it to sort of manage the fans, but there's in-game coaching features and clip tools if you want to use it for that kind of stuff too. All right, so remember that frame counter at the beginning, the one that was climbing to 230 FPS and I was playing Spider-Man while I sat there thinking something was broken. Sort of that moment, I think, is what this laptop represents. It's a moment that you realize you don't have to choose anymore between portability and power. You don't have to compromise. You don't have to miss out on max settings because you don't have room for a tower because you're at the end of your dining room table. And for years, I'd make excuses. Like, that's the thing I said all the time, I don't have space for a real gaming PC. I guess I'll have to just settle for portable or settle for less. I guess I've been playing games on medium settings, skipping titles that needed more power, watching other people experience games where they're meant to be played. This laptop ended that. I can clear off the table for dinner, come back an hour later and boot up Cyberpunk at 170 FPS with ray tracing on. That's not a compromise. That's an actual desktop experience without the desktop. So the Lenovo Legion Pro 7 with AMD's Ryzen 9955 HX 3D is not cheap. It starts at about $2,400. So that's a lot of money. It does ship in November. And if you're in the market for this level of power, you should absolutely check out. I'll put the link in the description. Is it for everyone? Absolutely not. But if you've been stuck between needing power and not having space, if you've been settling for less because a tower setup isn't realistic for your life, this is the first machine that doesn't ask you to compromise. This thing generally changed how I game, and I don't say that about a lot of hardware. So that's it. Let me know in the comments if you're interested what game you play, what the first thing that you'd fire up on here would be. All information you need though, again, to check this out yourself will be down below.